Hey, everybody, welcome to the Poachers Pickleball Podcast. We are back. And when I say we, I mean me, because Spencer is busy with school, going to try to figure out what he's got going on. It's been a while. We debated on if we were going to continue to produce this little podcast, but it's been a few people that have wanted it, and we're going to do it. So hopefully you guys like it. Again, the goal of this podcast is just kind of give you your little pro pickleball updates, previews, reviews, especially geared towards the people that aren't really paying that much attention to the pro pickleball scene. Maybe you're out there hitting the ball around, recreationally, and you're like, "Hey, what's this pro pickleball? Who's this Annalee Waters I hear about?" That's what we're here for, to kind of explain a few things to you. Hope we don't get too much in the inside baseball of things, but sometimes we do. So, what we got going on today for the episode? We've got, of course, the PPA preview. This is the Masters, which is in California. It starts tomorrow, probably today when this podcast goes up. So it is all week. It is a progressive draw worth 2,000 points for the winners. And let's see, Tuesday will be the round of 64, Wednesday the round of 32, and so forth until you get to Championship Sunday. That means when you turn on your TV, and again, this is on YouTube TV. There's the Pickleball channel. You can watch it on if you have Prime, Amazon Prime, or if you have just an internet connection and want to go to pickleballtv.com. And you can watch this starting tomorrow. Again, it'll be the round of 64 all day tomorrow, but it starts with singles, men's and women's singles. They'll be first, and then gender doubles, mixed doubles, and so on. And then the next day, whoever won will be competing in the round of 32 on Wednesday, and so on. So it's actually my favorite preferred way to do it. Again, I'm not a huge singles guy. I'm trying to become more interested in it, but when it's not like that, it's all day Wednesday. It's all singles all day Thursday. It's all gender doubles, and then all day Friday, it's all mixed doubles. So this is my preferred method. So watch away starting tomorrow morning. All right. We're gonna talk about that. We'll go through a few of the new partnerships. There's been some changes. It's a new year, even though for the PPA season, it's still technically the 2025 season. So this is not necessarily starting over, but there's been a bit of a break because of the new year. The thing has been the most interesting part of the new year has been a lot of expired contracts for sponsors for pros. We're going to talk a bit about the big one, Annalee Waters, as you may or may not know, has parted ways with Paddle Tech, and I'll give you my opinion on what matters for pros, etc. As a person that has way too many paddles, I'll give you my opinion. I consider myself a paddle nerd, but not the John Q type of nerd, where I'm looking at crazy numbers and graphs and spreadsheets. More just like, oh, I kind of want to buy that and try it, and I have way too many. So I'll give you my 2 cents, and then also just chat a little bit about some of my recommendations. I'm going to give you a little bit of a deeper dive into what I might recommend if you like this podcast, and maybe you want to get a little bit further into some other podcasts, some things I might recommend. Just because there's plenty of content to go around. There's no reason to be petty and not kind of share whatever you might find interesting in the pickleball world. All right, let's get started with the PPA Masters preview. So this is the Masters. This is supposedly the Wimbledon. This is like everybody has to wear white. I, I get what they're trying to do. It's pickleball. This is kind of one of those things where, in my opinion, we're kind of in the Wilt Chamberlain days of basketball, right? Like we're setting the traditions right now that will be a big deal for years to come. Whereas right now I'm kind of like, okay, cool, you have to be wearing white, whatever. I just don't think it's that big a deal. But again, it's supposed to be one of the most prestigious or one of the majors or whatever you want to call it. Um, to be honest, it feels a little forced, but I don't care because I'm happy to watch it. All right, so I'm gonna bring up some of these new, I guess. Let me just quickly go over some of the men's and women's singles because again, not my favorite. The biggest thing here is that Hunter Johnson is the number one player, so that means he has the most points. He's accumulated the most points. However, in singles, however, he has not won when he was number one. So when he was number one, he got knocked off. I think by Federico. Federico became number one for like a couple weeks and then didn't have enough points to maintain it. So Hunter Johnson, his biggest thing is can he win a tournament as the number one singles player while he's rated the number one singles player? So that's kind of the thing to watch. Other than that, the men's singles. Okay, if you're into singles, the thing that will be cool is it is there's the most parity in the men's singles. Truly, someone who's a 16 seed, an 11 seed, a 54 seed can come out of nowhere. We talked about John Lucian Goins winning two in a row. I mean, he won two golds in a row, and he's still number 10, the 10 seed, which means he didn't have a lot of points before. So anything could happen in men's singles. So if you're up for the more upsets, which I do like, then I think you'll want to pay attention to men's singles. Women's singles, honestly, it's all about Annalie Waters. She's the best. She hasn't lost in like since 2023 or something. It's hers to lose. She's going for, her fifth triple crown. Again, women's singles. It's fine. It's just not as much parity, not as much excitement. You're going to see the usual Rachel Rohrbacher, Kate Fahey, Leah Jansen folks in the singles for women's. All right, mixed doubles. There's a few changes, few kind of change partnerships that are interesting. Jesse Irvin and Jesse Irvin and Gabe Tardio are no longer going to be partnering together. So that is actually interesting because Catherine Parento is partnered up with Gabe Tardio, and she's one of the best women. She's top five women in mixed. So that could be really interesting. I'll keep my eyes peeled on Anna Brighton and Hayden Patrick, as always. One of the things that's probably really interesting is will be the debut of Will Howells. For anybody that follows, or in case you don't know, Will Howells is a player that played on the MLP team. So this is the team format. He played for the New Jersey Fives, and so the the PPA and the MLP again. If you don't know, they got married, so to speak, a few years ago. There was the Tour Wars. You could only if you were signed for the MLP, again the team format, or you were on the kind of more the singles type stuff, or the team, not the team, but the doubles PPA. Ultimately, those two tours merged together. Will Howells is kind of one of those ones that was, for some reason, and I don't know the history, but in between, so he only played MLP for the New Jersey Fives, and he only played on the APP tour, which is the other tour that somewhat competes with the PPA. Again, it's kind of the smaller tour. No, it's not as followed as much, and honestly, I don't pay attention to it as much at all. However, Will Howells did really well in the MLP. Some people think he's a top 10 player. I think it's to be determined. So interestingly, he'll be here, obviously playing mixed doubles, and then men's doubles. And since he's starting from nowhere, has kind of a higher seed, he's going to have a tougher road. He is playing his mixed doubles with Rachel Rohrbacher. So as far as a team, she's great. So they could do some damage, even though they're the 18th seed. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with Will from both a uh, gender doubles and mixed doubles. Going to be high seeded, but he might have the talent to be higher, and he might have slightly better partners that could help him get there. It's a big thing to watch this season is how will he do as a new PPA signed player. So the other thing, of course, or not of course, the other thing that's been really interesting if you watch is Riley Newman, who's kind of been around for a long time. He's actually teamed up with Kaylin Campbell. She is, I don't know, 14 or 15 or 16. I don't know. She's young, and she's on one of the minor league MLP teams. So she's really fun to watch. And he's also, Riley's also going for the youth movement. He's playing with Will McKinnon, who I think is 17, just recently signed to the PPA tour. He's one to watch as well. So interesting, and probably a wise decision by an old crafty vet to play with a couple people that are younger, and maybe he can do some damage as well. So, all right, the that's the mixed doubles again. Anna Lee Waters, Ben Johns, who can beat them? The Johnsons, J.W. Johnson and Georgia Johnson. They're the number two seed. That's always a battle, but it's pretty rare when they actually do beat them. So we'll see what happens. Again, I think the thing to keep your eyes on is the new partnership of Catherine Parento, Gabe Tardio. If you want to see what Will Howells is up to, see how he can do. And then I'm going to keep my eyes for sure on what Riley Newman does with the youth movement. So that's the mixed doubles. All right, women's doubles. The only thing that's super, I, I think it's interesting to keep your eye on this. I sound like I'm not excited. I'm excited. Anna Bright, Anna Waters, Anna Lee Waters, they're back together. A couple weeks ago, Anna Bright was taking a break. Anna Lee Waters played with Georgia Johnson, who everyone thinks is maybe a better fit. They're almost rivals by default, um, but they're both kind of grew up same age. They've got a legacy with both their mothers being in pickleball forever. So it was fun to watch the two of them together. Now Anna Bright is back with Anna Lee Waters. What will she be able to do with I mean, back to normal, back to their winning ways? If you remember correctly, they have lost a couple of times, which was kind of a surprise. But Anna Bright's had a nice break. I look for them to, kind of do some damage. The Brasha sisters are back together. One of the things I think I like to keep my eye on too is kind of interesting partnerships where you've got like maybe one who's a little bit louder, a little bit more feisty with maybe someone who's a little more stoic. That's Leah Jansen and Callie Joe Smith. Callie Joe, she is pretty quiet, she's an old vet. Leah Jansen is really fun to watch. She's pretty fiery. I think she's great on the mic, by the way. If you ever get a chance, if you're ever listening to Pickleball TV and she's commentating, she's fantastic. She's by far my favorite. I actually think Colin Johnson does a good job as well. But anyway, I think that might be a fiery one to watch. The other thing that's really the only other thing to pay attention to is the four seed is the Kawamoto sisters. These are the two that ended up beating Anna Bright and Natalie Waters in the semifinals and then went on to win the gold medal in Cincinnati, I believe, a few months ago. So they're number four. But it's such a weird thing. These two sisters so rarely play together. When they did play together, they won a gold medal, which is a huge deal, especially against Anna Bright and Natalie Waters. It it's weird because they act like they don't like playing with each other. So I'm there for this. I'm excited to watch it. Keep your eyes peeled on the Kawamoto sisters. That will be fun. All right. The Let's see if I can find the men's doubles here somewhere. There we go. This is probably the most exciting part. Um, this is we got again. Well, okay, I said it's most exciting. Let's start with the not exciting part. Ben Johns and Gabe Tardio back together. That's fine. They're another one seed. I think they won what, like 8 out of the last 10 times they played together, or something like that. Pretty rare they lose. Again, I talked already about Riley Newman and Will McKinnon. He's a 17-year-old. So Riley Newman with the youth movement. I'm excited to watch that. Matt Wright, who's the old guy, he's almost as old as I am, playing with Jaume Martinez Vic. That might be the most fun group to watch. Both are pretty fiery. Matt Wright, known to jaw quite a bit at at players. He's an attorney, so sometimes you'll see him postpone the match for 20 minutes as he argues a rule with the referees. Uh, that should be fun to watch, and he's been excellent. He's been getting silver medals, bronze medals, shockingly at the age of 50. Definitely want to keep your eyes peeled on him. They're the number 6 seed. I mentioned Will Howells. He's playing with Noe Cliff. Noe Cliff is his teammate from the New Jersey Fives, so they do have some chemistry. They played together. Again, they're the 15 seed, so they might have a tough draw, but worth keeping your eyes on to see how he kind of comes into the PPA. There's a chip on his shoulder. Everyone's been talking about how he's played the lesser tour. He only plays MLP, and when he does play MLP, he plays with Noe Cliff or Zane Navratil on the men's side. But on the women's side, he gets to play, or sorry, when on the mixed side, he plays with Annalie Waters on that team in the team format. So he's got a chip on his shoulder, got a lot to prove. We'll see what he does. I think it's going to take him a while. I'll be surprised if he's able to pull off a medal um, in the next 6 months, to be honest, just because he's gonna have tough draws, and there's just so much competition in on the men's side, and we'll see. But again, keep your eyes peeled on that. The other most interesting thing that's happened is imagine you're okay. So you got number one, Ben Johns, Gabe Tardio. You're the number one team. You beat everybody. The only time you lose is occasionally you might lose to Andrade Askew and Christian Alshon, or maybe you lost to Federico Saxtrud and Hayden Patrick, and they had an awesome victory. If you'll remember, that's when Saxtrud got really emotional after beating them. It was awesome to watch. And it took some interesting humility from Stackstrud, who was always playing the left side. He ended up switching with Patriquin, and so you've got the number two men's team, which would be Andre Dascu and Christian Alshon, and you got Federico Stackstrud and Hayden Patriquin, the number three team, and they basically said, you know what, we're the two and three team, but let's just switch partners and see what we can do. So it's interesting because you'd think if you're the number two team, why wouldn't you stick together? But it's kind of like, hey, look, we gotta change something up to try and beat Johns and Tardio. So you'll see Stackstrud and Diascu, and you'll see Alshon and Patriquin. The interesting thing about those two, Alshon is kind of known for being fiery, and Patriquin is known for also being a bit fiery. He's probably my favorite player to watch. Um, so I'm really interested to watch that. I actually think I'm gonna go on the side where these two fiery guys end up actually being fairly calm and and just go out and win. And I'm gonna pick them to face Johns and Tardio in the final. Not sure if I'm picking them to win, but I'm gonna pick them in the playing in the final for a gold medal. So those are some interesting new matchups. Again, it's kind of weird because we're in the middle of the season, but it's the beginning of the year, and some people just decided, hey, it's the beginning of the year, let's make some changes as far as partnerships. Speaking of changes, the biggest thing while we've been on break that's not related to actually playing pickleball is um, the speculation that was recent and recent announcements. Again, if you're listening to this and you're not totally in the know of pickleball, that's again trying what we're trying to serve here. Annalie Waters, who's the number one player in women's, she was had started her career using Paddle Tech as her paddle sponsor, and she's I think she was 11 years old, so 7 years using a Paddle Tech. And it's interesting because you didn't see, even though she's the number one player, it's not like it didn't seem like there's a whole lot of paddle tech paddles out there. Personally, when I hit a paddle tech, I thought it was kind of wooden. There was not a lot of feel. Again, this is just me. I'm not an expert, but you don't. It didn't seem to like. Just didn't seem like she was really selling a lot of paddles. So this is kind of what we're going to get to here. But anyway, there's some speculation. Where is she going to go? Is Nike going to come in and swoop and do an apparel deal and also start making paddles? That did not happen. However, they are talking about an apparel deal. She ended up signing with Franklin. And Franklin, interestingly enough, to me, they initially were uh, kind of the pickleball company before. I mean, when I got in, at least when I got involved. And I'll just the reason is I didn't really know much about pickleball. I just started playing, and of course, I had some terrible paddle, like from Amazon or borrowed from somebody or whatever. And I was in some sporting goods store, and I'm looking at the paddles, and I see one that says it was on sale because that's what I do, and it was it says number one player Ben Johns, and so Franklin had Ben Johns at one point. He then went to Yola, and when I saw that, and I see the Yola, I'm like, okay, Ben Johns, they signed him up, and everybody loves Yola. Yola's actually really popular. But for me, I was like, Yola, that's to me, that's a ping pong company. I'm not too interested in their paddles, whatever. Sorry, this is after. But when I bought this paddle, again, it was on sale. It was not a great paddle from Franklin. It was kind of more of a, beginner, I would say a beginner paddle, but like with Ben's face on it and them advertising that he's the number one guy. So I'm like, oh, this is on sale, number one guy. It's not as expensive as the other ones over here. I'm gonna try that. It was okay, and it was just me getting started. And then of course, then I go on the long search for the ultimate paddle, and just buy tons of paddles that I don't need. So with that said, I'm curious to see what the ROI on Annalie Waters signing with Franklin is, because I think my opinion is that Franklin realizes that they lost when they didn't sign Ben Johns back to Franklin and Yola took him. Yola really has done well. And if you look anywhere that you play pickleball, you'll see the Yola Pro 4 everywhere. it's been around, and they just are by far the most popular, along with I would say Selkirk, at least in the rec circles, I believe, and even in the pro circles. If you're not signed with somebody, you probably play with a Yola. Anyway, I think Franklin realized, hey, we better lock in the number one women's player, and not mess this up like we did with Ben Johnson. That's my opinion. Rumor has it that it's a $10 million deal. Um, if that's true or even close to true, I'm curious how they're going to get their ROI on that. And we'll just talk briefly. This again, this is just my opinion. I'm no expert. All I know is what I see, and also what I, as a consumer, my opinion is that rec players, probably the people listening to this that are just playing rec and not, super into it. Maybe they want to know, and maybe people listen to this podcast that are not those kind of people. They love pickleball and they know everything, and they basically could do this podcast for me. Maybe, but I'm of the opinion that most people make their paddle decisions if they're rec players based on who they play with and who they see around the local area when they're maybe looking for something new. That's my opinion based on what I've seen. Now, you might have somebody like me in that group that says, "Oh, here, I got the new Proton, Flamingo. I got, let's see, the new Loco, whatever the new thing that I happen to buy." And maybe people try it, or they're like, "Oh, this is cool." And then maybe when they buy their next one, they might buy something that, one of their buddies has played with. That seems to be, or what I do. What I end up doing is like I'll try something, and then if I don't love it, and I'll let somebody else try it and they like it, I'm like, "Oh, you can just have it," or they'll try to buy it from me. And I'm like, "I don't really care. You don't need to buy it from me." But so that's a couple of my friends that play with the Holbrook, because I had a Holbrook that I thought was okay, and I liked it fine, but I liked other stuff better, and ended up just giving it to them, and they ended up, him and his wife just ended up using it. So, or sorry, buying new Holbrooks. So anyway, I don't know that the pros. Again, I think pickleball needs a bigger audience. So maybe Franklin's future thinking, and like, hey, in 3 years when pickleball is even bigger, it's going to be a bigger deal that she's the paddle sponsor. She's also working with him on new balls and new bags. And so there's definitely other ways to make money. And obviously they're in the business and I'm not. I just don't know that pros sell that many paddles. And I think the problem is maybe twofold in that I think sometimes they'll hold their paddle up when they're getting interviewed, but they don't really ever talk about it. I don't see them out there really promoting it, but maybe I'm wrong. I will say the evidence of Selkirk basically dumping every single pro they've had recently is some proof that I'm probably right about that. With all that said, there's a whole bunch of people that have changed sponsorships. Again, $10 million for Annalie, you kind of have to do it. You have the chance to sign. I hate to say this, maybe the Tiger Woods of pickleball. The problem with saying that is I don't know that pickleball is going to get as big as golf got with Tiger Woods. Um, I'm just saying that she's clear, far and away the best player. So when you have a chance to sign her, I think Franklin kind of made a mistake with Ben, and they realized that we better maybe almost overpay to keep to get Annalie. Anyway, a couple other things. Again, Selkirk, I think, like I said, they've been dumping everybody. Um, Selkirk, Rachel Rohrbacher, she signed with Friday. Friday has been kind of like a meme brand. They have like funny videos. They're definitely more what I would consider recreationals. For them to sponsor Rachel, I have no idea what they paid. But they've signed Rachel and oh shoot, some other guy that I can't remember. My bad. I think he does more teaching. Anyway, but so Friday, that'll be interesting to see. Basically, there's a few different companies right now that just sponsored people. So I'll just quickly go through the list and then give you my opinion. Rachel Rohrbacher used to be with Selkirk, now she's with Friday. Deckel Barr, former Yola guy, he signed with 11/6/24. Chris Hayworth, who's been a singles specialist, he was with Babolat, which I think is a tennis brand, and nobody, at least the paddle nerds, they can't believe that he played with the Babolat forever, ever, and he was doing so well with it. He signed with Luz, and I'll talk about them in a second. Eric Onson's former Yola guy, he signed with Engage. Yuta, he wasn't signed with anybody. He signed with Diadem. Yuta Funamzia. He's the Japanese guy that uh, came over to play some MLP. He's actually fun to watch. Good guy. Met him at one of the MLPs. This is interesting. Brandon French, uh, former Yola guy, he has signed with Combat Pickleball. I have never heard of them until today. I think they're out of Canada. And then Kate Fahey kind of was being tricky and said, "Hey, I'm parting ways with Yola," and then suddenly an Instagram commercial with Andre Agassi, which is part of Yola. So she's just using the Agassi paddle. Anyway, so there's been a. I just think it's interesting to see basically some of the old guard saying we're not spending money anymore, um, and then some of the new guys saying, "Hey, we think it's worth it." The one thing that was interesting is Gabe Tardio just announced maybe an hour or two ago. Gabe Tardio, he was formerly with Pickle, and now he's with Falcolas, which is a Vietnamese brand. So you've got a Vietnamese brand that apparently is fairly big over there and is trying to break into the American market, whereas apparently teams like, or sorry, sponsors like Franklin had taken like Hayden Patrick, who's one of their pros, Anna Bright over to Asia to promote Franklin. So you've got kind of the opposite thing here. It'll be interesting to see what happens. The kind of the outlier and the interesting part, and what I was going to get to ultimately, when I'm talking about pros not quite giving the ROI on their sponsorships. uh, If you had $10 million and you could sign Annalie Waters, do you do that, or do you pump a few $1 million on the side to the John Q's, some of the more paddle nerd reviewers, Pickleball Effect, the what's it is the Pickleball Studio. Anyway, do you just give them some money? I mean, those guys they get all their paddles for free and do reviews or whatever. And I mean, if you think about it, if you're spending, $10 million, if you're spending, even a portion of it, you're spending, let's say you sponsor somebody for 50 grand, 100 grand a year, a pro, and you're all you have to do is send a few different YouTubers some paddles for free that at cost for you. I mean, that's a lot more money well spent. I personally think those guys, the John Q's, the Pickleball Studio, Pickleball Effect, I think those guys move way more paddles than all these pros, and I think that's probably money better spent there. So anyway, that's my opinion on all the pro stuff. And again, this is kind of coming from a guy who buys more paddles than he should by a mile. But I do buy them all. Obviously, if somebody's listening to this and wants to send me some stuff for review, it's not going to be super technical, but I'd be happy to see what you think or see what it is. But otherwise, I'm not. That's not necessarily my thing. Maybe it could be. Who knows? We'll see. If somebody wants to sponsor this podcast, I could definitely shill and sell for them. So as we get bigger, we'll see what happens. All right. The other update, real quick, on gambling is that supposedly the PPA, remember they initially had to deal with Kalshi. I went out and got a Kalshi account. I bet on some PPAs. I made a little bit of money. And then they said, oh, by the way, sorry, we're not with Kalshi anymore, with Polymarket. And Polymarket, I'm like, okay, cool. I'll get a Polymarket account. That's fine. And see how the gambling is so I can kind of tell you guys what it is, even though, again, I'm not a big gambler by any means. So go to Polymarket. There's this giant wait list. It says, well, we'll let you know when your thing's ready. I'm like, okay, well, this is stupid, but whatever. Finally, I get in, and as of right now, there's no PPA to bet on, even though the Masters starts tomorrow. That technically started today, and so I'm curious to see what happens on that. I'd like to see. Again, I'm not a huge bettor, but I do think it is good for the sport as far as growing the sport. Even though again, I don't like losing money, so there we go. All right. So, a couple other things that are maybe worth mentioning. Um, Again, I talked a little bit about the APP. Jimmy Miller, who, if you don't know him, he's the he a big shout out to him. First of all, we'll get to this in a second, but he's a big tent guy. He's always like, hey, there's plenty of room for pickleball. Whether you're an influencer, you're a YouTuber, or podcaster, or whatever. Very welcoming, very cool guy. But not afraid to say what he want, what he thinks, which I really respect. And he on Twitter, Said he's heard rumors from a couple reliable sources that the APP, again, this is the lesser, again, this is the redhead stepchild of the PPA in that it's just not as big. And anyway, he says, I've heard this that the APP lost about $8 to $9 million last year. They canceled all of their events for Q1, currently working on raising money to hopefully have a season later in the year. My question is with the success of the PPA Challenger, and for those, just let me side note, PPA Challenger is kind of like the minor leagues. So if you're a pro player, pro level 5.0, you want to go test your metal, you go to a PPA Challenger, try to get points so that you can get into the bigger the main draws like the Masters this week. With the success of the PPA Challenger, why wouldn't the majority of these players, meaning the APP players, jump ship and play more Challenger events? Seems you go either international or PPA Challenger, recent Challenger events, and then he talks about them having a few people that you would see normally on the normal PPA. Um, and he basically said, why not? Why wouldn't he do that? Basically, he's kind of maybe foreshadowing there's some issues with the APP, and that if you're in between and don't know what tour to join, why not join the minor league version, which is the PPA Challenger? Then Connor Pardo, who's the president of MLP, PPA, not APP. I know there's a lot of acronyms happening here. He just tweeted right after that. After a killer weekend, we have decided that PPA challengers will have an increased prize pool starting this summer. More details to come. So uh, that's the one thing that's been an issue for the PPA Challenger, again, the minor league version, is that the prize pool has not been big. It's truly been more to like, see if you can hang with some of the better players and try to work your way up. But if they're gonna, I, my opinion is that Connor Pardo, as a smart businessman, saying, "Hey, let's increase the prize pool, and if APP is already struggling, let's put more pressure on them by increasing the prize pool." So anyway, that's my take on that. Um, let's wrap this up. Let's get down here. The only thing I was going to say really quick is if you're interested in kind of more of a deep dive, again, this is maybe pretty cursory as far as what we do. I know I over explain things on purpose. So if you're annoyed and you don't like the podcast, that's fine. Let me know. I'm happy to have feedback. But again, I'm trying to reach those people that play pickleball but don't necessarily watch PPA, and I'm just giving a few extra explanations that may be a little redundant for you experts that are listening. So if you're an expert and you're like, Matt, shut up, we already know this, fine, let me know. Happy to hear some feedback, not a problem. One thing that's been interesting to me as I've kind of been debating on what to do with the show is there seems to be this weird pickleball is supposed to be like, you know, the big family and we're welcoming and we're meeting new people, blah blah blah. Like I said, big shout out to Jimmy Miller of KOTC podcast. He's the GM of the MLP team, the California Black Bears. He calls himself a big tent guy, meaning, everybody's welcome in the pickleball world. If you're an influencer, if you're whatever you want to be and you want to be involved, get involved, do what you want, create random products to sell, do whatever you want. Like there's plenty of room to grow. Um, and I love that. And as I've been kind of paying attention to this world, it's been interesting to see a few petty comments here and there, the kitchen fighting with the dink and making, stupid tweets and side comments, and maybe they're not covering certain things on purpose, which I'll get to. Um, it's too bad there's this pettiness going on. So what I decided to do, um, is basically just say, hey, look, here's some of my recommendations for stuff that I think is cool that you may want to check out. I don't care if we're so small, it doesn't compete. I don't care. Who cares? Even if we did, who cares? There's more pickleball, the better, right? And the more interesting things that are out there. Again, for all I know, I'll tell you what I always recommend Deja Vega, which is the band you hear at the beginning and the end of this podcast because they're one of the best bands in the world. So you never know what I'm going to recommend. So, but this one's all pickleball. I'll just recommend um, Kyle, who is he's a former Pickleball Effect podcast host. So they did, again, a lot of paddle reviews. He's off on his own now. I think there was a little bit of an issue, but again, great guy. He's a veteran, and he's trying to like, he's pickleball's made really had a really big good impact on him, and that's what he's kind of trying to do along with doing paddle reviews and stuff. Great guy. He does a podcast called Between the Rallies, and you can see it on YouTube. Uh, Again, he's trying to do stuff where he involves more people, gets the stories out there. So one of his, I think his most recent episode, he actually has a gentleman on that he interviews a guy that takes pickleball and teaches pickleball to inmates in like Rikers Island and other prisons. And just a really cool podcast. It's not a very long listen as far as that part. I would strongly recommend Between the Rallies podcast. Kyle seems like a great guy, and I love what he's trying to do to try and bring what what pickleball can do and how it can change people for the better. So definitely recommend Between the Rallies. I already mentioned the KOTC podcast. That's King of the Court. That's Jimmy Miller, who I mentioned, and then Tyler Loong, who's a professional player. So what's cool about that podcast? It's definitely a little more inside baseball than this podcast. They're not going to over-explain things. They're not going to over-explain what PPA Challenger is. So if you already know that stuff, this is again, you might need it. There's some things you may not know if you're new to pickleball. If you're not, fine. But anyway, deeper dive. What's cool about it is they kind of seem to know what's going on. I'm a pickleball outsider. They're the pickleball insiders, so they know kind of what's going on the business side that I may not know. So it's really a great listen. Again, Jimmy's not afraid to say anything, and I again totally respect that. I think it's great. He's not ridiculous or anything like that, but he's not afraid to say what he thinks and maybe ruffle some feathers here and there. The other thing about this is, and they just announced, and they have a really big following. They're a great podcast. So again, if you probably heard of them, but if not, I also recommend their all access. It's $5 or it's $15 a month. It's one or the other you can pick. And I was a little skeptical to be honest because I'm like, oh, people doing these Patreons, doing podcasting. Again, I get it. If you're really like, maybe if our show was big enough, maybe we would do it too. Um, but they offer an all access, which is like exclusive videos, exclusive access to things in their Discord, and I joined for the lesser amount, the $5 a month, and it's already well worth it. So if you're if you're deep into this and you like the KOTC podcast, I would recommend their all access actually. I think it's fantastic. I think it's well worth it. It's one of those rare things where I think it's worth giving those guys a few bucks extra. And some of the stuff that you hear is definitely more inside than you normally would hear. So strong recommend for that. The other thing I would say is quick story, and you guys probably know this from the other podcast. So this is Dope Pickleball's high roller paddle. Um, Dope Pickleball is one of my favorite companies, as you can see. One thing I'll recommend, looks like they have a new paddle that's coming out. It's Manhattan Mint. Looks like it's going to be on Kickstarter. I haven't, that's what their website says. Big plug for Dope Pickleball. The guy his name is Stitch. He's just an absolute disruptor. He's out there designing stuff. He's got the shiny edge guards long before. In fact, if you remember last year at this time, the big news was that there's going to be a pickleball commercial at the Super Bowl, and everyone was freaking out, super excited. And then kind of back to the pettiness thing, once the commercial came up, and you're like, oh, what's that cool shiny paddle that the actors are using, right? Willem Dafoe and I can't remember her name. Sorry, guys. Anyway, what they're using, and nobody really want to talk about it except for Forbes. Forbes did a great article about it, and it was just kind of petty. I don't know why they're because Dope is just a small pickleball brand that's doing some really cool stuff. They have balls that have like glitter in them. This kind of like a Las Vegas theme. Super cool. Big plug for Dope Pickleball. The high roller paddle is still available, and but everything else isn't. Like it's like if you want a hat, if you want something like that they put out, you better get it right away, or it's gonna be gone. So anyway, hopefully maybe when the Manhattan Mint paddle gets a little closer to releasing, or they have some more news on Kickstarter, we'll get Stitch on and chat a little bit about the what it's like to design some crazy cool stuff. And so again, strong recommendation for Dope Pickleball. That is it. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. Again, I'd love to hear some feedback. I really did debate on whether or not the show should continue. It's not a ton of work, but it's a little work to put this thing together. I'd love to hear some feedback, see what you guys think. Again, am I over explaining things? Is there something else I should cover? If you have questions, leave a comment on YouTube, reach out to me. I'm on Twitter at Poachers Pod. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. Thanks again to Deja Vega for the excellent music at the beginning and end of this podcast. Definitely go check them out on Spotify. If you happen to listen to this and you're in England, you'll probably see them on tour soon. And they are unbelievable live, so I definitely check them out. All right, thanks for listening to Poachers Pickleball Podcast. We'll catch you next time. See you guys.